Megalodon didn't have to die. I ran a simulation where the biggest shark ever made it past its extinction and straight into today's ocean, and honestly, the results are worse than you'd think. We're talking shipping lanes turning into feeding grounds, orca pods getting demolished, and the whole food web getting flipped upside down. The simulation uses real fossil data, actual bite force numbers, verified size estimates, and modern whale populations. So yeah, it's grounded, and yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. Here's the thing about Megalodon. It wasn't some dumb movie monster that looked like a great white blown up with a bag pump. Scientists used to think that, but a 2025 study changed everything. The real Megalodon was probably long and slender, more like a lemon shark scaled up to nightmare size, with fins so big they practically had their own zip codes. The numbers on this thing are honestly hard to wrap your head around. The average adult was about 13 to 14 meters long, which is already longer than a city bus. But the biggest individuals might have stretched to 24.3 meters, basically the length of a bowling alley lane. It weighed somewhere between 30 and 65 metric tons, and its jaws could open wide enough to park a small car inside. Bite force estimates run from about 24,000 to 41,000 pounds of pressure, which means this thing could crush bone like you crush a soda can. To put it another way, this shark could bite clean through a shipping container. And here's where it gets messed up. This absolute unit ruled the oceans for nearly 20 million years. Then, about 3.6 million years ago, it vanished. The usual suspects are a 1-2 punch of global cooling and a disappearing food supply. The planet got colder, sea levels dropped, and the warm, shallow nurseries where Megalodon moms dropped their pups basically dried up or froze over. At the same time, the Isthmus of Panama closed up and cut off the nutrient highway between the Pacific and Atlantic. That killed off a huge chunk of the small whales Megalodon loved to eat. But here's what kept me up at night. I kept thinking about what would have happened if that extinction never came, and if the climate had stayed warm and the food had stayed plentiful, Megalodon could have kept swimming right up to the present day. I wanted to know what would happen if you dropped a predator this size into an ocean that already has container ships, orca pods, and a whale population that's barely hanging on after 2 centuries of industrial whaling. So I built a simulation to find out. Before we drop this shark into the water, let us set the ground rules. The simulation starts with one surviving Megalodon population in warm tropical and temperate waters. We are giving them the full range they had back in the Miocene, from the coasts of North America and South America to the Mediterranean, the Bay of Bengal, and pretty much anywhere the water does not freeze. The simulation runs for 200 years of ocean time, and we are tracking 4 main metrics. First, we want to see how modern whale populations hold up when something way bigger than any living predator starts hunting them again. Second, we need to know what happens to orca pods when they have to share territory with a shark that outweighs their entire family combined. Third, we are measuring how global shipping handles a surface hunting giant that treats cargo lanes like a buffet line. And fourth, we are watching whether the Megalodon population actually stabilizes or just crashes all over again. I am going to be straight with you. This is speculative, and we are using real fossil stats for the shark, real population data for modern species, and then we are extrapolating what happens when they collide. We cannot model whether Megalodon would evolve new behaviors across 2 centuries, so we are assuming they hunt the way the fossils say they hunted. Think of it less like a weather forecast and more like a very educated nightmare. Year 1 of the simulation hits, and Megalodon wakes up in an ocean it doesn't recognize. The water temperature is fine, but the menu has changed. Back in the Miocene, small whales were everywhere. Today, not so much. Industrial whaling wiped out most of the big baleen whales, and the ones that are left are just starting to recover. So Megalodon does what any apex predator does when it's hungry and confused. It goes for the biggest thing it can find, and that means blue whales. Now, a blue whale is longer than even the largest megalodon, hitting about 27 to 30 meters. But here's the problem. Blue whales evolved in a world without anything big enough to hunt them. They have no defensive behavior, no sharp teeth, no hard shell, no pod formation to fight back. They're basically floating all-you-can-eat buffets with no security guard. It would be like dropping a wolf into a petting zoo. The simulation shows Megalodon hitting blue whales hard in the first decade. Losing even 5% of the global blue whale population is catastrophic because there are only about 10,000 to 25,000 of them left worldwide. That's down from roughly 350,000 before whaling. When the blues start getting scarce, Megalodon shifts to humpbacks, fin whales, sei whales, anything large and blubbery that moves slow enough to catch. And honestly, this part of the simulation made me pretty uncomfortable to watch. Modern conservation has spent decades trying to rebuild these populations, and in the simulation, a single predator rolls back decades of recovery in about 10 years flat. But here's the open loop I didn't see coming. I had no idea what would happen when the big prey finally ran out. By year 30, the simulation takes a turn I was not expecting. The largest whales have either learned to avoid Megalodon territory or they have been picked off, so the shark starts hunting smaller, faster prey. Dolphins, seals, sea lions, sea turtles, whatever packs enough calories to justify the chase. And that is where Megalodon runs straight into the orcas. Orcas are the current apex predators of the ocean. They are smart, they are social, they hunt in pods with coordinated strategies that scientists compare to wolf packs. A pod of orcas can take down a blue whale calf or flip a great white shark like it is a toy. But here is where it gets really messed up. An average orca weighs about 6 tons. A big female megalodon might weigh 65 tons, and the largest estimates push toward 94 tons. That means a single megalodon outweighs an entire orca pod of 6 to 8 adults combined. The simulation models orca behavior based on what we know about their intelligence and territoriality. In areas of high overlap, the orcas do not win, and they either evacuate the territory entirely or they start losing members. Losing experienced adults is devastating because orcas pass their hunting knowledge down through generations, and without those elders, the pod's culture and survival skills fall apart. The ripple effects spread fast. With fewer orcas hunting seals, seal populations spike in some areas. But then Megalodon notices the seal spike and moves in, which collapses the seal numbers all over again. The whole coastal food web starts wobbling like a table with one leg missing. But honestly, the orca problem is not even the worst part. Megalodon didn't just birth its young anywhere. Fossil evidence shows they used warm, shallow coastal waters as nurseries, places like Panama, Florida, and the Canary Islands. Baby megalodons were already 2 to 4 meters long at birth, bigger than most adult sharks today. But those same shallow, warm water coasts are now packed with human activity. Beaches, harbors, shipping lanes, tourist resorts. So the shark isn't just hunting in the deep ocean, it's raising its babies right next to our biggest port cities. This is where the simulation goes from a nature documentary to a disaster movie. Megalodon hunted in warm, surface to mid-depth waters. It wasn't a deep-sea creature, and it definitely wasn't a cold-water animal. That means it shared space with the busiest shipping corridors on the planet. That means the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, the Malacca Strait, the coast of Florida, and the Mediterranean shipping lanes. Here's a number that should freak you out. Modern shipping already hits about 20,000 whales every year, and fewer than 7% of global collision hotspots have any protection measures at all. That's with whales, which are mammals that surface to breathe and sometimes try to get out of the way. Megalodon is a fish, and it doesn't need to surface or check AIS tracking. It just swims where it wants to swim, and at 24 meters long with a body built like a torpedo, it doesn't get hit by ships. The ships get hit by it. The simulation starts logging container ship damage in the first 5 years. A fully loaded cargo vessel doing 20 knots slams into a 50-ton shark, and it's not the shark that sinks. The hull plating cracks, bulkheads buckle, and in the warmest corridors where megalodon populations are densest, multiple incidents start stacking up. Insurance companies panic, shipping routes get redrawn, and ports start closing temporarily because captains refuse to run certain lanes without armed escorts. But the real nightmare starts when governments try to fight back. Navies and coast guards try to respond, but here's the problem. You cannot patrol the entire tropical ocean. You cannot drop depth charges in shipping lanes without breaking international law and blowing up your own trade routes. Some countries try sonar barriers, others try bait and deter programs, but Megalodon has a brain the size of a small car and 20 million years of evolutionary stubbornness. It doesn't care about your maritime regulations. By year 50, the simulation estimates massive economic damage from rerouting and repair costs piled up across global shipping. And on top of all that, you have the human encounters. Swimmers, divers, fishing boats, and surf schools are all operating in the exact same shallow, warm water where megalodon moms are raising 4-meter-long babies that are already bigger than a great white. So it's not exactly a recipe for a fun beach vacation. After 200 simulated years, the numbers come in, and they aren't what I expected. The megalodon population peaks around year 40, and then it starts to crash, and I mean it crashes hard. Blue whale populations in the simulation drop by about 60%. Humpbacks fare slightly better because they're more agile and coastal, but they still drop by 40% in the shark's core range. Several local whale populations go functionally extinct in warm water corridors where megalodon density is highest. Orca pods lose about 30% of their historic range, and pod mortality spikes anywhere the two species overlap. Shipping losses keep climbing even as routes change because there just aren't enough alternate paths through warm water that don't cross megalodon territory. The global economy adapts, but it adapts the way you adapt to a hurricane. You survive, but you're not thriving. But here's the real twist, and it's honestly the most interesting part of the whole simulation. Megalodon does not win long-term, and it's honestly not even close. By year 100, the average megalodon size in the simulation starts dropping. The largest adults are still huge, but the median size shrinks because there just isn't enough large prey to support a population of 50-ton predators. The modern ocean has a tiny fraction of the whale biomass that existed in the Miocene. Industrial whaling saw to that long before megalodon ever showed up. By year 200, the population is a scattered remnant. A few hundred individuals hanging on in isolated pockets where local prey hasn't completely collapsed. The shark that outlasted mass extinctions and ruled the ocean for 20 million years is starving to death in a world we already emptied. So here's what the simulation actually proves. The modern ocean is worse for megalodon than the Pliocene ever was. Back then, the problem was cooling water and vanishing nursery grounds. Today, the water is still warm enough, but the buffet is gone. We already ate it. Industrial whaling reduced blue whales from about 350,000 to maybe 25,000 at best. Humpbacks were cut down by over 95% before conservation efforts even started. The megalodon simulation does not fail because of climate change or tectonic shifts. It fails because the prey base that sustained 20 million years of super predators was wiped out by factory ships in the 1800s and 1900s. Megalodon starves in the modern ocean for the exact same reason it starved in the late Pliocene. There isn't enough food for a predator this big. The orcas can't stop it. The navies can't stop it. The shipping industry can't stop it. But hunger stops it, and evolution stops it too. The sheer physics of being a 50-ton warm-blooded hunting machine in an ocean of 10,000 blue whales stops it. We can't know if Megalodon would eventually shrink over thousands of years, or switch to scavenging, or learn to hunt in the deep where we'd never spot it. But across the 200-year span we're modeling using only the behavior patterns the fossils show us, the outcome is pretty clear. Surviving the Pliocene wouldn't have saved it. It would have just delayed the inevitable. Megalodon didn't die because it was weak. It died because the world got too small to feed it, and our world is even smaller. I want to know which prehistoric monster you would simulate in the modern world, so drop your pick in the comments. I read every single one, and the best answers might end up in the next video.